Today I'm going to touch upon a subject that's very close to my heart. It's something that I've got wrong for so much of my early career, and I say that a lot. And it's roadmaps, and more importantly, the thinking that's needed behind them. You see, most teams treat roadmaps like a contract, something to agree on, to publish, to stick to. But what if that mindset, that very mindset which drives them to do it, is the thing that's holding them back and actually damaging the very relationships you're trying to protect? Because here's the truth. A roadmap isn't your strategy. It's not the work. It's not even the decisions. It's just a way of communicating them. And when we start worshipping the artifact instead of the thinking, we're in trouble.
Welcome to the Product Agility Podcast, the missing link between agile and product. The purpose of this podcast is to share practical tips, strategies, and stories from world-class thought leaders and practitioners. Why, I hear you ask? Well, I want to increase your knowledge and your motivation to experiment so that together we can create ever more successful products. My name is Ben Maynard and I'm your host. What has driven me for the last decade to bridge the gap between agility and product is a deep-rooted belief that people and products evolving together can achieve mutual excellence.
So, roadmaps for me aren't contracts. They're supposed to be compasses. So let me give you a metaphor to help frame the conversation that I'm going to be having with myself here, and one I want to have a view afterwards. A roadmap is not a contract, it's a compass. It doesn't guarantee arrival. It doesn't even tell you the terrain you're facing. It's not a map. It's a tool that helps you point in the direction based upon what you currently know. And it should evolve when the moment new information emerges. Now, most product teams don't treat it like that. They treat it like a delivery schedule, a document to sign off, something, dare I say, to beat people with when you're not sticking to it. And then, lovely thing that happens in big organizations and small ones alike, the cascade. Someone comes up with a big lofty roadmap. Let's say it's a team who are responsible for product decisions. I'm not going to call them the product team. And then they come up with this big lofty idea-based roadmap they're going to deliver, and it cascades. And it's just seen as a delivery schedule. Like the confidence, the consequence of this is that everyone looks confident until the very moment the world changes. And then the teams are stuck defending a plan that no longer makes sense. They're just sticking to it, even though it's a death march. And so for me, the reason for some of this is that it's kind of the problem with polished artifacts. David Pereira, my friend, put it well when he said, if your roadmap works perfectly, you're probably avoiding the hard conversations. And he's right. But let's go one layer further on that. The biggest trap isn't the roadmap being wrong. It's believing that the roadmap is the thinking. It's not. It's the output of the thinking. It's a communication conduit. It's a container. And when we start treating that container as the product itself, like polishing it, locking it down, showing it off, getting it signed off, communicating it to stakeholders, to customers, to the outside world, we start optimizing for appearance, not alignment. And I've seen this happen time and time again. Teams spend hours formatting timelines, fiddling with colors, tweaking the phrasing, coming up with n number of different roadmaps for different products that are just confusing. But the tough decisions, they're barely even made. The trade-offs you need to make it a reality and to make it a success, still ambiguous. The risk, hidden. So if a roadmap isn't the thing that we've been led to believe it is, or at least some people have led us to believe it. I know that there are some great people out there. I think of Phil Hornby. I think of Matt LeMay, previous guests on the podcast who have got a real positive and solid attitude towards this. I think of Radhika Dutt, friend of the show. Her attitude towards roadmaps is very much hypothesis-based, and I love this. Right? But what we're going to focus on, what I want to focus on is the relationship. Yeah. So David Pereira, mentioned him again. He mentioned this often. The roadmap should be a relationship, not a list of outputs, not a slide deck. It's a relationship. Because when we stop thinking about the roadmap as a promise and start treating it as a conversation, everything shifts. Suddenly, it's not about defending the plan. It's about evolving it together. Stakeholders are no longer passive consumers. They should be contributors. And if we treat it as a conversation, they will be. Product teams shouldn't just be building things. They're learning alongside the people that they serve. And so the roadmap should be a continuous conversation. The thing you're putting out in front of people is just a temporary output based on those conversations. So when we think of this, actually, there's a strong role for learning in strategy. And there's something I encourage every product team to ask, which is what do we need to learn to make better decisions, to make better bets. Like, that's the roadmap. A roadmap should be a pathway of learning and getting it wrong and getting it right. It should be something focusing on the impact you're looking to have. It shouldn't be a forecast, a Gantt chart. Think of it as a set of learning goals. Because in complex environments, and let's face it, most of the product work we do lives in complexity. Difficult word to say that. Prediction is a really fragile tool. We cannot predict what will happen in a complex adaptive system. All we can do is test around the system. We can poke it, we can prod it, we can sense, we can respond and learn more about the system. So prediction is a folly. So when people treat roadmaps as prediction tools in these complex product environments, you're always going to fail. Because the goal isn't certainty. The goal is to reduce uncertainty together, collaboratively, through inquiry and reflection. A good roadmap doesn't pretend to know everything. It shows where you're uncertain and invites others to help you reduce that uncertainty. And you may be listening to this and thinking, well, my boss wants a roadmap. Great, well, go give him a roadmap. What I'm suggesting here won't work in every situation, but I think that the right support and the right coaching could probably work in yours. But these are slow burn. Sometimes these things take a long time. But we have to appreciate that the roadmaps have to be a conversation. And I'm not saying that they should never change. I'm not saying that you can't polish them. I'm just saying that often we are encouraged, forced, cajoled, or pressured into doing things the wrong way. So what are some of the signs that maybe your roadmap needs that little reset? So let's make it really tangible. Here's a couple of quick tests. So are you only updating your roadmap when someone complains? So the only time it ever evolves is when someone hasn't got something on time, when someone hasn't got something that they want, when someone can't see what they want on there. Is that the only time you're updating it? Was it built in isolation? Did you spend hours tinkering away with your PowerPoint slide or your Canvas? Let's get started on Canvases again. But did you do that and then present it to the stakeholders? Does it list features and deadlines, but not the assumptions or risks? Because the answer is yes to any of those. You've likely fallen into the artifact trap. The good news is that it can be easy to step out of it if you shift your focus from presentation to conversation. So here are 3 things you can do this month. 1, treat the roadmap as a facilitation tool. Use it to host conversations, not conclude them. Work in time horizons, not dates. Think now, next, later, or never. Or just bracket that up into some big chunky time frames. Maybe be bold and try and break out of a quarterly cycle and do something a bit more challenging, or fit in to the quarterly cycle and just label them now, next, and later. And let learning shape the timeline. Invite others in. Don't present the roadmap to stakeholders. Co-create it with them. If you want a practical nudge, try this at your next roadmap session. Instead of asking, what are we delivering, or this is what we are delivering, ask, what are we uncertain about? What do we want to test? And then the real conversation can start. So this is only a short episode today. As you can probably tell, I've been really struggling to get these episodes out every week. Life is taking over. Business is taking over. And as a consequence, I'm just really busy. I get listeners contacting me, which is great. And I answer your questions, or people want to know about maybe some support I can give. And I encourage that. Please do message me if you want some support from me or any of my associates. And please do get in touch. But when all that happens, which is exactly what I need to happen, the podcast has taken a back seat. And for that, I apologize. So if you're going to take one other thing away from this episode, let it be this. A roadmap is not your strategy. It's not your promise. It's not the work. It's a compass. It's a way to share your current direction and invite others to walk with you. And so here's my question to you. When you last shared your roadmap, were you trying to communicate and have a conversation, or were you trying to convince? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come and find me on LinkedIn, and let's talk about how you use your roadmaps to build relationships, not just timelines. And that's all for this episode of the Product Agility Podcast. If this gave you something to think about, maybe even something to change, then do make sure you subscribe to our LinkedIn page. Do make sure you follow us on the podcast platform of your choice, and share it with a colleague. Right? That's what this podcast does well, because people share it. And if you're curious about David Pereira's original interview, I highly recommend listening to that episode too. I think I've done 2 or 3 with David, and I want to get him back on for a little bit of something special. He's always full of practical thinking and really hard-won lessons. So yeah, do check out those episodes. So until next time, stay thoughtful, stay curious, stay human, and remember, plans can change, but relationships need to last.